Hey everybody, welcome back to FSi DFS. I am McKinley412. We're going to be breaking down the 2-game early slate and the 5-game main slate later on in the video, so stay tuned for that. Not going to talk too much about this 2-game slate. It is pretty straightforward. Springs is your SP1. I feel like even in GPPs, you almost just have to play him as a blocker, because do you really think he's going to struggle enough where he's going to get outscored by guys like Kluber or Aller or Irvin? Probably not. He's more of a blocker at that point. He's going to get his strikeouts. So I think that would be okay. Maybe the salary does come into play at almost 10K. But still, I think you're just going to be playing Springs regardless on this 2-game slate. Next, you got to pick 2 pitchers on DK, which is unfortunate. I lean towards Irvin strictly because of the matchup going up against Oakland. Aller was just atrocious all of last season. All 3 of these guys remaining, they've all struggled so far this season. But we got to look at last year's data as well. We're still only 2 starts in. But Aller last year, he had an ERA close to 7 in like 70 innings pitched. So, he's not a great major league pitcher. So don't have a lot of interest in him. And then Kluber, do you really want to be playing guys against this Tampa Bay offense right now? No, not really. So, my mind gears more towards like the optimal builds and like cash builds and everything. I fully admit to that. But this is probably where you're going to be starting in terms of that. So, just going through the positions, Adley Rutschman obviously stands out at the top at 5.2K. It's going to be tough to fit him in if you want some of the other big bats later on. But I do like the matchup going up against Aller. Nothing wrong with him there, but I would probably lean more down towards the cheap Tampa Bay catchers like Mejia or Bethancourt, whoever is in. Andy Diaz, Mountcastle, those are the 2 guys that really stand out in terms of first base. I'm not surprising anybody there. Maybe Noda down here can be a cheap play if you really want to go there, but it's a lefty on lefty matchup, so not really. And I would rather find the savings not at first base. So jam one of these 2 guys in here. Fine with either one of them. I'm just going to click one of these just so we can kind of compare the salaries and everything. Second base is going to be Brandon Lowe. I would definitely core him. Lefty righty matchup. Guy's been absolutely raking. He has been on fire, seeing the ball really well. Brandon Lowe, second base, core, absolutely for sure. Third base, Devers really stands out. Obviously, 6.3K. It's going to be tough to fit that salary, and he's going up against Springs, so I don't really have too much interest in him there. Third base, I don't really love too much of anything. This is one where you definitely want to be spending down, or there's not going to be as much ownership on one specific guy in particular. Shortstop, I love Wander Franco in the spot, so I'm probably going to be jamming him in there. Outfield, so you can guys see we got 3.6K remaining. Say we go cheap at catcher, we're probably going to be around 3.8, 3.9 remaining. For the remaining bats. You guys like Austin Hayes at 3.8K. He was hitting high in the lineup here for Baltimore. Rayleigh, he hasn't been doing as well, and his price has certainly ballooned. He was only like 2.1K when we were first on him. Now he's up to 3.6. A little bit higher than I want to be paying for a guy like that, but still a nice lefty-righty matchup with home run upside. 3.6K. 2-game slate, probably going to see some ownership in there. If you want to go super cheap, 2.6K, Ruiz for Oakland. He hits high up in the lineup. So maybe you have some interest with him there. A nice righty-lefty matchup, 2.6K, could be a cheap guy, and you're at 4K remaining. So that's pretty much the early slate. It's going to be a play low for sure. 100% Franco, and then pick between Mountcastle and Diaz, and then in the outfield, I'd just stick with more Baltimore and Tampa Bay bats for sure. Maybe Ruiz can be your cheap third team, so you get that third team in there. Maybe you get Ruiz in there for 2.6K. So let's turn towards the main slate. Not too much better, honestly. Weather-wise, just pay attention to the weather. I didn't see any rain threats. It did look like this New York Yankee game is going to be like in the 80s. It's going to be hot, and double-digit wind gusts blowing out. So maybe you see a little bit more, maybe another home run in the game than you would, or a couple more runs. So we'll see. But pay attention to the weather. 2 clear offenses with Toronto and St. Louis, and then pitching, Let's just go through it. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just go through it. So I put the K rates on here for some of these guys. This is not the K rate of Turnbull or Velasquez. That's their hard hit rate. We'll talk about that later. But there's four higher price guys. Lodolo's obviously cream of the crop at 30% K rate. And this is taking into last season's numbers. This is not this season. This is last season's numbers. Lodolo had a 30% K rate. Going up against Philly, a team that he played last time out and absolutely mowed them down. So if we pull up the game logs here, he went 7 innings pitched, 3 hits, no earned runs, 12 Ks. Do I expect that again? No, I don't. But can he put something similar to that? Absolutely. And is he better, than any of the other pitchers on the slate? Yeah. So Lodolo, I think, is going to be your SP1. He's going to be my favorite pitcher at 9.4K. I don't think that there's too much issue in terms of finding salary on this slate. So I think you just kind of jam in Lodolo in there, especially in your optimal builds. Behind him, you got Ryan going up against the Yankees. Real quick, these pitchers are wrong for the Yankees and Milwaukee. It's not going to be Wilson. It's not going to be King. I recorded these the night before. It is kind of the downfall to recording these the night before. Sometimes DK doesn't update them correctly. But yeah, we'll get to that when we get there. So Ryan going up against the Yankees. He had a 25% K rate last season. He's been decent in both of his starts. He had a real tough matchup against Houston last time out. Easier matchup in his first start against Kansas City, but still, he provides that nice floor, solid K rate. Going up against the Yankees, who don't strike out too much, so it is a tougher matchup. But at 8.8K, I got no complaints about it if you want to put him in as your SP2. Montgomery, same thing. If you want to put him as your SP2, no complaints about it from me here. Just incredible in his last start out going up against Milwaukee. Faces Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh, we got to remember, they are without O'Neal Cruz on the IL for a couple of months here with that fractured ankle. So that Pittsburgh offense, while they were pretty decent to start the season, that's a major blow right to the heart of their lineup with their best bat. So definite boost to Montgomery in that regard. A little bit cheaper than Ryan at home in his own ballpark. Might have a little bit better pitching weather too. I know I mentioned the winds are blowing out in New York, so maybe he has a little bit better pitching weather to go as well. So I might rank Montgomery above Ryan, just kind of as I talk throughout here. And then Bassett, he's got a favorable matchup going up against Detroit. Detroit strikes out a lot. They're going to be a team that we're going to be targeting a lot this season, but he's got some control issues. Is dating back into spring, but yeah, so. Control issues with the walks, and then when he wasn't walking guys, he was allowing home runs. So is he safe? No, not really. But yeah, so he's got a lower K rate than Ryan, similar to Montgomery. I have Montgomery third here. I kind of almost just talked myself into putting him above Ryan, given the matchup. O'Neal Cruz being out, the weather, being at home, all that considered, I might move Montgomery up here. In the mid-tier, Brito and Lauer. I mentioned that the Yankees and Brito's confirmed, according to MLB.com. Brito is going to be going for the Yankees. He's 7.7K. Let me see. Yeah, he's 7.7K. And then for Milwaukee, they haven't announced a starter yet, but my guess is that it's going to be Lauer. It would have been Woodruff in the rotation, but he's on the IL, so I think it's going to be Lauer. It would give him the full 5 days of rest, so I would expect him to be there going up against San Diego. If it's not Lauer and Milwaukee chooses to do a bullpen game, I do not have a lot of interest in San Diego bats in that regard. I was just looking up bullpen stats for this video just because I don't think a lot of these pitchers are going to be going super deep into the games, so I want to pay extra attention to the bullpens. Milwaukee's bullpen, the relief pitchers have an ERA of 1 this season. That's it. And I didn't believe it. So I actually went through every game log for Milwaukee this season, and it's true. Their bullpen has 36 innings pitched, only 4 earned runs allowed. So if it is a bullpen game for Milwaukee, I do not have a lot of interest in the San Diego bats. But yeah, so if it is Lauer though, obviously more interest in the San Diego bats. Do I have a lot of interest in Lauer? No, not really. I would put him below Brito. But even Brito at 7.7K going up against Milwaukee, I won't have a whole lot of interest in either. I'm probably going to be sticking up with these top guys, Lodolo, Ryan, or Montgomery. Only cheap guy that I really have interest in is going to be Falter for Philadelphia going up against Cincinnati. but it's minimal. It's very minimal. He's kind of like the one guy that I can like almost stomach down here, but I mean, again, it's very minimal. I'm not going to be playing him in a lot of my lineups. Well, probably in any of my lineups outside of like a super random dart GPP. So Falter, he's got a super low K rate going up against Cincinnati. So it is a favorable matchup, but still not a matchup that I'm super thrilled in just based on the pitcher. Velasquez and Turnbull, I put here their hard hit rates. Anything over like 38, 39, especially 40% hard hit rate is just awful. Turnbull, he's got a 41% hard hit rate, and this is going back to last season as well. This is not just like 2 starts. Oh, that's not enough data. Going back to last season as well, Turnbull and Velasquez, they've just, throughout their careers, been hit hard, well, past couple years, have been hit very hard. And they faced the 2 toughest teams, honestly, on the entire slate in St. Louis and Toronto. It's kind of funny how that works that way. So, going to be completely fading them. And then just no interest in Martinez for San Diego. He's just got a low K rate. Just not a lot of interest in him there. So, turning towards the bats, Toronto and St. Louis, they are like cream of the crop. By far and away, the two best options in terms of your builds. So, like, if you were just to do like a Toronto St. Louis stack, let's just kind of build and see where we're at with salary. I'd probably lean Goldschmidt over Guerrero. Gorman, he's been hitting very well. Nice lefty-righty matchup in that there. Chapman, I don't know what's going on, but he's doing unreal stuff here with the bat. I would definitely want Bichette. Chapman and Bichette would be the 2 first guys in any Toronto stack that I do build. I would definitely start there, and then you would probably go with Springer or Vlad Guerrero. On the St. Louis side, I do like the value that St. Louis can provide in the outfield. Guys like Burleson, who hit in like the 2 spot. He would also be a nice lefty-righty matchup. And then Jordan Walker, like one of the top prospects in the entire league. He's got a crazy long hit streak. I think I saw he tied the major league record for like longest hit streak to start a career. He's at like 12 or something. So like you could definitely throw him in there as well. So with like a Toronto St. Louis stack, let's just see. I don't want to give you 2.6K remaining. You could do it. Obviously, things shake out. You want to see where everybody's at in the lineups, who's in, who's resting, all that kind of stuff. But Toronto St. Louis is definitely going to be where your stacks, like your optimal stacks, are going to be pumping out guys from them. Again, with Toronto, Chapman, Bichette would be my first 2 targets. And then with St. Louis, Goldschmidt would probably be the first guy. And then Burleson provides a lot of value up high. Gorman's been doing very well in the nice lefty-righty matchup. And then Jordan Walker. Jordan Walker typically hits lower in the lineup, but still, a guy with that high expectations for his career, being sub 3K, got to have some interest in him there. Then there's a big gap between everybody else. Milwaukee is down here. I honestly don't know where to put Milwaukee. I want to play them against Martinez just because I don't really have much interest in Martinez. You know, he allows some contact, doesn't strike out a whole lot of guys. But like the Milwaukee offense, you know, while their record is good as a team, they're just getting carried by pitching. So like it's not like they're scoring a whole lot. It's not like any of their guys are doing like incredible. They're all just kind of like doing average, doing what they need to do and winning games in that regard. So I honestly didn't know where to put Milwaukee. Cincinnati, I have them as the top GPP. Playing in that small ballpark, they're returning back home into that small ballpark where they're averaging 5 runs per game in their 6 games there to start the season. Going up against Falter, we mentioned how Falter has a low strikeout rate, so you know maybe he gets bounced around a little bit and has to leave the game in like the 3rd or 4th inning. That would be ideal because this Philadelphia bullpen is in shambles. They have an ERA over 7. It is the worst bullpen statistically in the league so far this season. So if this Cincinnati team can get to that bullpen, that would be fantastic. Pair him with Lodolo, I mean, even better. The guys that I would be starting in a Cincinnati stack, it would be India, Stevenson, and then Steer. These would be the start of my Cincinnati stack. Maybe you want to throw in a guy like Newman. He's not hitting well. He did have a nice game in his last start against Philadelphia. Let's see. Yep, and let's start here against Falter. Still, not super exciting about it. I would definitely start here, but who cares? You can't look at game logs when you're GPP stacking. You're just kind of hoping that, guys get on base. You just kind of correlate your whole lineup in that regard. So I do think Cincinnati, if they can get to that Philadelphia bullpen, which has been statistically the worst bullpen, got a good shot. Nice GPP play there. San Diego, GPP at best, and this is more for like if Lauer is in. It's like if Lauer is in. I don't want a whole lot of San Diego if it is going to be a bullpen game, just because of how good that bullpen is and how good their relief pitchers are, and like they've been good for years. Like the Milwaukee bullpen has been known for being great for a couple of years here. And then the Yankees, I honestly might put the Yankees above San Diego as like my second GPP favorite team, just because of the weather, the wind, all that kind of stuff. But they are going up against Ryan, so I don't have a whole lot of interest in that regard. Leverage stack is going to be Philadelphia going up against Lodolo, who should see like all the ownership, and then some cheap plays: Detroit, Pittsburgh, and Minnesota. I don't know what's going on here. Detroit would probably be my favorite play going up against Bassett. We mentioned how Bassett has some serious control issues or letting up home runs to start the season, as well as back into spring training. So who knows? Maybe he struggles again, and Detroit can get out there, and they're super cheap. Super cheap. Look at this. They only have a single guy above 4K. They only have 4 guys above 3K. So salary's not too much of an issue, and like you're even getting the value guys on St. Louis in the outfield with Burleson. I mean, even Gorman's a value at 3.8K in this regard. So that's pretty much the slate. It's pretty straightforward. Again, in my opinion, Toronto, St. Louis going to be taking over everything in terms of the bats. So get off of them in GPPs for sure. And then Lodolo, Montgomery, Ryan would probably be my order of the top 3. And then just pay up for pitcher. I don't like anything down lower. It's probably Brito for New York, and it's probably going to be Lauer for Milwaukee. But that's still to be determined. Could be a bullpen game. But regardless, thanks for watching. Really do appreciate it. Hit subscribe, thumbs up, all that. It really does. I'm not just saying it. It really does help us out in providing all this content and keep this content going for you guys. Because if you're watching, we'll just keep making content. So as always, thanks for watching. Good luck in your contests, and we will see you in the next video.